Welcome back to another episode of the Tim Macy Show. And if you are listening to this episode, I have a treat for you. Today, I've got Eric Simon, and you probably know him as the Broke Agent, who's amassed a massive following of real estate agents, now has Broke Agent Media, which is really just diving into all things news in real estate. I love BAM. BAM's been an awesome news resource. And now also, I have officially subscribed to BAMX because they're giving away constant streams of tactics and marketing ideas for agents. And it's just a content library full of value. So all that being said, Eric Simon, welcome to the show, man.
Tim, thanks for having me. This has been a long time coming. You were one of the first guests on my podcast. It's about time I make the Tim Macy Show. I'm very excited.
That's right, man. That's right. I kind of love the journey because you were kind of starting the broke agent thing as I was kind of starting in real estate. And I've been able to watch you go from posting memes that were hilarious to where you're at today.
To posting memes that aren't funny anymore?
Well, you can't hit every time. We joke, man. I always give you a hard time that like, oh yeah, all you do is post memes. And then you get offended. Giving people a hard time is my love language. That's how I show affection. But all that being said, it's amazing what you've done over the last couple of years, how big of a following and how big of an audience you've built. Now, your audience is agents. And you know I'm passionate about agents not getting confused with their marketing and making marketing for the consumer, because a lot of us tend to build these agent audiences that don't actually generate us as much business as they could. And I got to tell you, I've been watching the stuff you guys have putting out around marketing stuff for agents and what they should be posting. And you are translating the marketing genius that built what you've built and bringing it to really tactical stuff to agents. And so over the next, 40 minutes, I would like to try to pull out as many of those tactics for our listeners as possible. So I'm not going to let you introduce yourself. I just introduce you. People don't need to hear your story. You have a great story. I want to get right into it. Why don't you just take
this entire podcast and I'll just sit here and you tell everything. 40 minutes.
Yes, that's exactly how it's going to go. I want to know, what is the newest content idea that you've seen agents doing that you're passionate about right now that you think more people should be doing?
I saw an AI generated neighborhoods. If a neighborhood was a person, this Kansas City realtor did it. And it's one of the best reels I've ever seen. It's just a swiper of reels of saying, like, we'll use Los Angeles, for example, if West Hollywood was a person or if Venice was a person. And I love the idea of doing that. And then you could turn that into another piece of content by actually green screening your own video and talking about the perks or the downfalls of each neighborhood. So that's one of the best videos I've seen. I wish I knew the guy's handle. It might be moving to Kansas City, which is a playoff of Move Me to Texas, of course, but it was one of the best videos I've seen. But the content that's working right now the most that I'm seeing, because the Instagram algorithm is just so all over the place, is always the carousel swipe, where you have a slideshow at the beginning and then you swipe to an actual video. So instead of posting the actual reel or a clip or a market update or something, you say something like, these are 5 things that are happening in Kansas City right now, with the stupid kind of YouTube thumbnail face, and then it swipes to the actual video. So that's what I see that's working really well. And then, of course, green screen content. Ricky Carruth is hammering this and is getting more engagement than I've seen a lot of like media companies get. And he's just, anytime a news article pops up about real estate agents, he's green screening it. Anytime a news article pops up in your local market about a new development, a new coffee shop, something like that, you should be green screening it. You should be kind of the voice of your market, the mayor, the digital mayor, Tim. I just invented that term right there. I'm the only person to ever say that of your town.
Well, obviously, if you don't know, Eric Simon is ripping off Gary Vee, who's been talking about digital mayor. But was he the first one? I feel like digital mayor's been thrown around so much now. It's hard to
digital mayor. I don't even know if he was the originator. Was it Tom Ferry? Was it Mike Ferry? Was it Brian Buffini? Who knows?
Who knows? Maybe it was Buffini. Probably Buffini.
Yeah, probably.
One of the things that my buddy Trey says, which I don't like giving him credit too much, but he kind of says, forget the digital mayor thing. I want to be the digital citizen, because people don't really like politicians. I want to be that person that's just that person in the neighborhood that just knows everything about what's going on. And that's what that social media profile should look like. And I love what you are talking about, because when I think about that, if this, what AI, what is it? What what AI thinks people look like in this area. Is that what it is?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like if
So
West Hollywood was a person, if
if
Kansas City
West
was a
Hol-
person.
yeah, if West Hollywood was a person, that's an idea that's been done by other content creators that an agent took and transformed it for real estate. They took ideas that they were seeing from other content creators and said, hey, I can adopt this to real estate. The biggest mistake I see agents making is them following other agents and taking crappy real estate agent ideas and saying, oh, this seems like a good idea, and just copying it. And that idea of going out and seeing, what are content creators outside of real estate doing? What's trending outside of real estate, and does it work for real estate, and can we bring it back?
Yeah. I mean, that's how I get a lot of my content, is following other accounts outside the real estate industry. I've been following other meme accounts, other sales-based accounts. Like there's this guy, Corporate Bro, who's kind of like the broke agent of sales and finance. He does really funny skits and reels and voiceovers. I follow Sales Humor. I follow Attorney Problems. I see how these other accounts built their communities, this sort of content that they're posting, and then basically rip it off and then use it for real estate. And a lot of people do this to my account too. So it's a great way
Yeah.
to get content ideas.
Yeah, you tweak it for real estate. But what else? I love the local stuff idea. Carousel stuff's great. But what other local focus tactics are people doing that you like?
Tom Story is one of the best creators that I've seen. He has a real estate show with another real estate agent that's kind of focused more on sellers. So if you're talking about the real estate market nonstop, that's going to be seller-based content for YouTube. But as you know, the YouTube audience is more, it's like 70% buyers. So a lot of his focus is kind of, the pros and cons of each neighborhood, the Dan Parker style where you're going in and out of these actual neighborhoods and restaurants. Like he does such a good job of sitting in front of his actual, camera and setup at home. And then he talks about a neighborhood and then he's walking around the neighborhood. The amount of like screen changes that you could do, visual settings that you could do, especially in like a 30-second or 60-second clip, that's what retains that retention. And that's what gets people watching. So I would say Dan Parker, Dan Sells San Diego is doing a fantastic job. Chris Benjamin is one of the best creators in real estate. He's doing a great job of tapping into nostalgia. So he just did this video that's a listing video, but he's planking. And do you remember the plank challenge like back in 2011? And then in the background, he has the song Like a G6 by the Far East Movement. I don't know if you remember that song. I used to play it in my frat every now and then. But yeah, exactly. It was kind of a fist pump, bottle popping song. But it was just like such a perfectly constructed video because he had that audio playing in the background. He's planking, but in the entire video, he's showing the actual house. So he's not the star of the video. It's a great hook because you're like, oh my God, this is so nostalgic. I remember the song. I remember the plank challenge. And now I'm seeing all these different rooms. I'm seeing the square footage. I'm seeing the neighborhood. And then he gives a little explanation at the end. So he's been super clever with his listing videos. And then he also does a great job about giving reviews of restaurants and then tailoring what that restaurant is to a listing that's within the area. So he always brings up his real estate and his listings instead of just like doing a local review and saying, this is why I love this coffee shop. It's fantastic. Oh, by the way, down the street, I actually have a listing right here and it's walking distance. So he always does a fantastic job of making sure his real estate business is still included into his local restaurant reviews, or whatever kind of neighborhood thing that he's talking about.
Yeah, Chris does amazing stuff. But one thing about Chris is he's super creative. He's good on camera, and he's got a very high production level. And sometimes, as someone who tries to teach agents or maybe inspire them, whatever, to do more of this stuff, I know that can be an intimidating thing when they look at somebody and they're like, okay, well, that person's just more creative than I am. They're better on camera than I am. Their production level is better. So let's take all that out. Like, what do you take from somebody like Chris that everybody should be able to implement?
Well, he's been doing reps. Like I was horrible on camera. 2015, 2016, if you watch my YouTube videos, I'm like 20 pounds heavier. I'm sitting there. I think we recorded on a GoPro on my couch. I had no idea how to do scripts or lighting or anything like that. I still don't. Like right now I'm talking with a black eye. But it takes so many reps to get comfortable in front of the camera. It takes so many recording sessions to understand your cadence and to feel comfortable with your environment and to know what hooks to use and to know what scripting to use and to be able to keep people's attention throughout the video. Like I've been doing this for years, and I'm still mastering it and learning it to look at my analytics and see, why did people watch this Marketing Monday video only 20% of the way through? What did I start saying? Or what did I not stop doing? Or what did I stop doing that made people fall off? So my advice, what was your question? Was it advice? I don't even remember.
Yeah, well, what can
I just
people
went on
take
like a
from
dialogue tree right there.
No, no, that's good, and it was all good stuff, so I
Okay.
don't mind. But I think people see maybe all the content that BAM puts out. They see the quality of stuff that Chris pulls out, and they get a little discouraged because they're like, I can't make stuff like that. And so, what are the tactical things that they can implement from watching some people like this?
Yeah, I mean, I think the reps was a good answer for that. But also, if you realize that you're not great on camera and you're not going to be doing these high production things, there's so many other marketing routes. That's why real estate is just so, like, I didn't like being in real estate, but I love the aspect of real estate marketing because you could collect emails. You could have the best real estate newsletter of all time, which is probably one of the more powerful things. That's so much more powerful and gets you so much more conversions than actually putting out these reels or these videos. So if you think, all right, maybe I'm not that great on video. Of course, you still have to show up because people do have to see videos of you. They are going to go to your Instagram and decide to choose between you and another agent. But if your newsletter and your blog, or maybe your podcast, maybe it's audio only, like, you have all these different options to reach people. And that's what's so awesome about the industry. So I would be focusing on doing more blogging, doing more writing. I know that sounds boring, but you could churn your blogs into little snippets that you're posting to Instagram that you're then embedding into your email newsletter. Like, there's so many different ways to pull a piece of content or a thought and make it into a tweet, which becomes an Instagram post, which becomes a newsletter hook, which becomes a lead gen, a lead magnet that you could turn into an ebook to get more emails. Like, you really kind of have to find your lane of, what am I best at? Is it interviewing people on the street? Is it sitting in front of a mic? Is it writing? Or maybe it's just posting carousel posts that actually have information that I have that's different than the other agents. That was a good answer, right?
Yeah, I like the idea of the carousel post and doing less stuff on camera to, just giving information a different way. I do think, though, personally, and this is just the way that I interact with being a consumer, I do think there is a bare minimum for video that you should have. And the reason I say that is, like, I get, somebody like you will hit me up for a referral in some kind of, market where nobody comes to mind immediately, and I have to go research who's in that market. And I can tell you right now, I go on and it looks like they've sold a lot of houses on their Zillow profile or, whatever. But if I can't find a single video of this person talking where I can, like, get a feel for who they are, it's hard for me to refer them business. And so I think there's a bare minimum that even if you don't want to start some video production thing where video is going to be a big part of your business, I think in the day and age that we're in now, when people are stalking you before they call you, because that's what most people will do, they got to have some video where they can hear you talk and connect with you and say, oh, Eric seems like he knows what he's talking about. He seems like my kind of people. Then I can read all the stuff to know that you're an expert and everything else. But no video at all, I don't think, I think hurts you right now.
Yeah, my point wasn't to not do video. My point was, if you look at a Chris Benjamin and you see this is like the upper echelon, this is the god of creation here, what other ways can I find ways to market people where I'm not putting out videos that are necessarily competing with that person? I'm not saying don't be on video. That'd be the most psychotic thing, is I come on this podcast and I just say, don't be on video after years of saying that.
I'll be honest, like a year or two ago, I'd have agents and they'd be like, Tim, I can't do video. Like, it's not very. And I'm like, look, you're selling 30 homes a year. Like, you've got this great little business. Keep doing postcards. Keep doing your thing. Like, don't worry about video. You don't need to do it if you've got these other things that are working for you. Now, in a point where it's like, I think there's a minimum amount of video you have to have out there so the consumer doesn't find nothing. Like, it's weird if you go to search somebody and there's nothing there. Like, you're like, what is wrong with this person?
Completely faceless. Yeah. Just an avatar, an AI avatar. But here's some advice for people who may have not gotten on video yet, or they're just extremely uncomfortable with it, is putting yourselves in the position where you are the most comfortable. It seems very simple, but I know that I don't like filming video when there's other people around. So if I'm doing a Marketing Monday video or I'm doing a podcast or something, I don't like my wife even in the other room. Like I make sure that I'm in a good environment. I'll go to my car and film a green screen video if she's at home, because I know that I'm going to be repeating myself. I know that I'm going to be doing multiple takes. I know that I have to have the lighting right. I don't want people hearing my inflection points, me messing up, me getting angry. So really understanding where is it that I could be where I'm extremely comfortable, and knowing that it is going to take 10 or 15 times before you're even comfortable with the thing you're putting out. Also scripting. Like 90% of agents, I would say, I'm just pulling this number completely out of my ass. I'll just say 90% of people can't just get on video and just start talking. There's not that many Tim Macy's. There's not that many Byron Lazines. There's not that many Chris Benjamins, Derek Gregory's, like these people that just have the gift of gab, where they could just kind of, pick out a topic. They have three things that they want to talk about, and then they just run with it. Like, I script everything out. When I'm doing my Marketing Monday videos, which are these videos for real estate agents that come out every Monday on our Continuing Ed YouTube channel, I script. It's 5 minutes. I write every single word out. And of course, throughout it, I could ad lib a little bit and I get more and more comfortable. But before even doing those recording sessions, I read that script 10 or 15 times so I know what word is coming. And it really, really helps when you're filming. So if you're listening to this, know that you're not alone in terms of the uncomfortableness that comes with doing this, because I have went to go film videos with Jason Cassidy in San Diego before. We hired a videographer for 3 hours. I'm sitting there in his office. I see all the other people and I can't do it. Like, I've recorded 5 or 6 of these things and it was the worst recording session of my life. We didn't post one of those videos because I just knew people could hear what I was saying. I did not put myself in a comfortable position. But also, the more you do it, the more comfortable you get, of course. I hated doing Instagram lives. I hated doing speaking gigs. I hated doing podcasts like this. Like, when we started the Overask podcast, I wasn't on the first 10 episodes. It was Matt Leonetti. I was just like the promotional, brand behind it and helping come up with the questions and the editing and the thumbnail and everything. But once you start getting in those reps, it really, really does make a difference. Because if you just go out there and it's really uncomfortable, it's awkward, the video sucks, that's one, and then you're out, that's where you're going to screw yourself over.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because definitely, like, it's we went back and forth on Instagram because you were the broke agent and I was doing my thing. And I mean, I don't know when the first time I met you was, but at some point we met up and I'm like, man, Eric's an introvert. Like, he's a quiet dude with this massive social media following. And so I know that the speaking on stage for you, the being on the podcast, it's not your natural element. But I got to say, watching you speak in Kansas City after seeing you speak a couple times, I could just see how much better, how much more comfortable you are. You were hilarious in Kansas City. And I can tell it's because you put the reps in. Like, it probably wasn't the first time you dropped some of those punchlines with the timing that you did and all the other fun stuff. And there's no other way around it other than you got the reps in. You did the work and you just put yourself out there and got better at it.
Yeah. And it really is doing webinars, doing podcasts, doing and not every agent is going to be doing speaking gigs. That should not be your goal at all. But when you're hosting these buyer seminars or these Zoom sessions, or you're talking to other agents, or you're even running just like a meeting with your team, even with BAM, when we would first do our in-house team meetings, we have a team of 12 right now. I would be nervous for those, right? Like, because I never like had like a leadership position like that. But as you keep doing them every single day, we just did a webinar. We had 1,200 registrants for it with Tom Story and Emma Pace. So we had like 500, 600 live viewers. I used to be like heart pounding at the beginning of these things, like dry throat, super nervous, just knowing how many eyeballs were on it. I didn't care about this anymore. This is like the first one, I've been doing these for a while now, but this is really the first one where I was just like, I got this. I'm going to throw up an intro. They're going to crush it. We're going to promote BAMX. We're going to get a ton of signups. We're going to give a ton of value. And it was awesome. So it's just like, you really do get over that hump.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, and I think people don't know where to start. I can't tell you where to start. I could just kind of tell you where I started. And that was, I was on Byron's 5 a.m. call, but I live in Texas, and so it's 4 a.m. Central. And, I was cool, like, oh, I'll wake up at 4 because rise and grind, it was a little too early. So I was like, hey, you know what? I should make a 5 a.m. call for Central Time. And I had that thing for 5 years. And so every morning for 5 years, I was talking. And it's crazy how doing something every morning for 5 years will make you better at it. And so a lot of my ability to jump on something like this and just talk and do the thing like you talked about. Some of it's natural, but some of it's the fact that I've just done so much of it. I've gotten better. And I love what you said about how it translates into other things, because I think people think like, oh, I've got to do video, and like it's just about becoming a better communicator. And if you're a better communicator, you take that with you in all aspects of what you do. And so I really love what you had there. But I think we've hit this pretty good. So I want to again try to get some tactic stuff out of you. If you're an agent who is, I just got an email from one of our small teams. So husband, wife, 2 agents. They run a great small business, and wife runs a lot of the ops. And she's hitting me up saying, hey, like I need to hire an agency, or I need to hire some service that's going to do like a lot of this marketing for me. I can't do all this stuff. What's your thoughts on tactically like building a social presence and building social media while you're running a real estate business?
That's such a broad question. Like, where do I even start with that? What are my thoughts on building a social media
Where's
presence?
your gut tell you to start? If you listen, if you got
I'll
that
tell you.
email,
Right.
if you got that email and was like, hey, I need help getting all this stuff going, like what's a service you recommend?
Yeah.
What would you say?
I would say not to use a service right off the bat. Like your voice is going to come through the page. Your captions are going to come through the page so much more than someone else trying to learn what you do. Unless you're a Tom Ferry and you have a social media manager that's literally learning how you misspell things so they could communicate as if they were Tom Ferry, which he has or had or does have, like that's different, right? Like you need someone shadowing you at all times. But the reason why the broke agent worked, because you could hear my voice in your head, right? In each caption, in each meme, in each podcast, you start to hear kind of the cynicism, the sarcasticness of my voice. When I look at Ryan Serhant's copy, I know it's Ryan. I feel the energy. When I see it's Gary V, it's him posting everything. There's a reason he does all of this. It's because you can't be disattached. What's the word? Unattached from your actual brand. You can't be unattached from it. So if you hire a service, that'll be disastrous for you, because someone will just be trying to learn exactly what you're doing, and they'll basically just be a kind of mundane, dumbed down version of who you actually are. What I would do, I mean, you could use a service like Coffee and Contracts, which is great for templates and ideas, and they have reels ideas and audios and trending, and it's a community of other agents. I do recommend doing something like that for sure, because that could really help you get off the ground and gives you a lot of, prompts and reels ideas to actually get going. But I think determining what is going to get you the most conversions and what is actually going to generate more real estate leads, and going at it from that angle as opposed to, how can I get as many Instagram followers as possible? All right, well, you got your Instagram following. What's your move after that? Can you convert that following to an email newsletter? Can you actually get them to watch your YouTube from your Instagram? Because you have to do long form content to actually convert these leads. Just pointing at captions on TikTok or posting all of these Instagram reels and having a bunch of agent followers where you maybe get one referral every 6 months, that's not going to do it. It's all about like creating a ton of value for your actual clients. So another thing I would do at the beginning is, even though you kind of talked down upon, following all these other agents and looking at their content, it really is important to do that to kind of get inspiration on what sort of creator do you want to be. So you do have to follow the Chris Benjamins, the Paige Stecklings, the Taya DeCarlos, and take little pieces and say, all right, Taya has a video called Taya's 2 cents, where once a week she comes and produces this really high quality 90-second, former IGTV, now Instagram reel that talks about either what's going on in the real estate industry, her specific market, or it's giving like a strong opinion on something. She's giving her 2 cents. How can you twist that into your own show, right? Or Chris Benjamin just did this viral challenge. All right, so how can I do something that doesn't distract from the actual house, but is still entertaining enough to keep people's attention throughout the entire video, and kind of craft your strategy around that? I know I kind of went in 5 different directions with that, but I'm trying to like start like the agent who is just starting. You do need to get inspiration and follow other real estate agents. And then you do need to pick the mediums or the platforms that you know that you're going to be successful on. So if I had to start right now, I would do YouTube 100%, because that converts more than anything else. Long form strategy, it's way better than just posting short form. I would have Instagram because of the versatility. And then I would have an email newsletter that you're sending out on a weekly basis. Those are the 3 most powerful platforms.
I agree. I think my point there was that I just see bad content ideas get spread through real estate agents. And I think the thing that I would think about when you're looking at what other agents are doing is ask yourself, what content is this agent doing that's really hitting with consumers? That's what I think the difference is, and I would focus on, because you know this, like I just see too many agents get caught up in the agent to agent content. And the way the algorithms work, it's like once you build your audience, it's really hard to change your audience. And so when you're starting out, it's like just focusing on that consumer content is important. But I think
Well,
you get a
Tim,
lot of great ideas for other
you are
agents.
at Real. Real agents are also trying to attract other agents. So naturally,
Yeah, yeah,
your circle of people
yeah,
who you follow will be producing a lot of agent to agent content. But
yeah,
for the average agent that's listening to this, that either isn't at Real or doesn't have the marketing abilities that a Chris Benjamin or a Matt Leonetti has, that should not be your goal. Just like you said, other agents will interact with your content. They will give you that engagement. You will feel, a little mini celebrity, like, this is awesome. I had 50 agents like this, and now I'm speaking on a panel at some arbitrary conference somewhere. And now I've made it. That only lasts for like a couple months or like a couple
yeah.
years, right? That's not going to do anything for you in terms of actually getting leads. So having that kind of 70% rule of how could I provide my actual clients value? How are my buyers and sellers reacting to this content? And then sprinkle in 10 to 20% that's kind of more, agent to agent content, that agent humor, that will work as well.
Well, I think one thing is, when I was starting out, I did a ton of agent to agent referrals because I didn't know anybody in my market. I'm not from my market. I had zero family and friends. And so it kind of worked for me to have agents in my content and they were sending me business. But what I found is that agents who make content focused on the consumer, that consumers love, consumers work with, also does well with agents seeing their content eventually set up a business anyways. And so I think like you don't need to go too hard down that agent road to get referrals, because if you're making great content about your local area, you're going to get those referrals too. But let's dig in. So carousel posts on Instagram, right? Those ones are
Yeah.
hitting. What other Instagram tactics, hacks are you seeing right now that you like?
I think getting as many emails from Instagram as possible. I think being able to use Instagram as a platform to convert actual leads is really important. So once you have the following, it's how can I use different lead magnets and different webinars or whatever to get people into my actual database. And I see people like Lindsay Joe. I'm just kind of throwing out names as
Yeah.
if they're baseball players, like everybody knows who these people are. Most people probably don't, so I'll stop doing that. But there's a lot of agents that I see that are using ebooks or lead magnets. When I say a lead magnet, I mean something that is a PDF that possibly you make on Canva that's like a buyer's guide or a seller's guide or the Toronto foodies guide or something like that. These are basically mini blog posts or YouTube videos that you could condense into a little PDF. You upload it to something like Lead Pages, and then you publish it in your Instagram bio or your Instagram story as a link. And you say, hey, if you're interested in selling your condo, I just made a condo buyer's guide for everybody here in San Antonio. Download it here. And then you get 10, 20 downloads. That's 10, 20 people in your database. They know the exact type of buyer you are, and now they're in your drip campaign. So that's what I would tell agents right now is, now that you have the following, what are you going to actually do with it? Like, how do I get them to actually click on stuff? So what we've been using, which is extremely effective, is this chat bot called Mini Chat, which I'm sure you've seen us use 1,000 times.
Who gave you
People
that
don't-
idea?
Not Katie Day, I'll tell you that. Not Katie Day. This is completely organic. I made this up by myself. I came across this by myself. Now, shout out Katie Day. She's been using this for probably over 2 years now. She introduced this to me, but it's really, really effective because getting people to click on any sort of link on Instagram destroys your engagement, destroys your Instagram stories, destroys, even if you say a link in bio, Instagram recognizes that language and that converts at less than 1% anyway. So you want to set up this mini chat, MANYCHAT chat bot, where you could actually have the follower DM you or comment a specific word, and then that sends them in messages your lead page or your lead magnet. And then that's how you actually get the downloads.
It's funny. One of the mindsets that I've had around marketing, I think has done really well for me, but also hurt me in this aspect, which is I don't like to market to people in a way that I don't want to be marketed to. And I've always had trouble, making cold calls and doing this other stuff because I don't like getting cold calls. And if I don't like getting them, it's hard for me to make them. I like consuming content, so I like making content. When I door knock, I can't door knock and try to sell people the house down the street. I could door knock and tell them I have free donuts at my open house because that's how I would like to be marketed to. And that's done well for me. But the thing that has hurt me is email because
Hmm.
I don't love getting emails and everything else, but it's so important because the platform changes, the algorithm changes, this stuff changes all the time. And when you have a YouTube channel, which YouTube's a pretty stable platform, I think, out of them. But at the end of the day, if for some reason YouTube changes the algorithm and decides they're not going to have people watch your videos anymore, like you don't have any control over that. They changed the Facebook algorithm. When I went Facebook Live back when that was a thing, everybody saw my Facebook Live. Now when I go live, my mom sees it. And
It's
then she texts me
embarrassing.
after. She
Yeah.
texts me after and says, "Be safe." I'm like, "Mom, I was just looking at a house. It's okay."
Yeah.
But email is really one of the only things that you own. Like your email list cannot be taken from you. And I think that's why it's super important.
Yeah, your goal with Instagram should be able to get people off Instagram, right? Like, what am I building this broke agent following to? It's not to keep them on the broke agent anymore. It's how can I get them in the email list? How can I get them on nowbam.com? Just like how can you get them on your listing website? How can you get them in your email newsletter? How can you get them to a YouTube video? That's the entire thought process for me around Instagram right now. And this has shifted in the last couple of years since we started BAM. My entire process at the beginning, and this should be this should also be for a real estate agent just starting out. It should be to grow your following and produce the best content as possible. All this conversion stuff that I'm talking about does happen 6 months, years down the road when you have an actual following, right? Like you can't just throw up an ebook if you have 10 followers. You can't
Yeah.
just tell people to visit a website or put a link in your story or tell people to go to a webinar if you have no following and no content to back up anything that you're actually saying. So you do have to build this database of trust and entertainment where before people actually see you as an authority or want to exchange their information for something of value. And that's really the key. Like you said, like you you haven't collected that many emails or you don't want to necessarily give your email address to someone else. Everybody feels that way. But if you're exchanging something of value and you're giving people FOMO for something where they're like, I got to attend this webinar. It's 3 free lead sources. They're talking about LinkedIn strategy, video conversion, and something else. Like, I have to do this. Of course, I'm going to get my email. Or it's Instagram hacks for realtors. You know how many times I've repurposed that ebook? I've probably
Yeah.
got 10,000 emails alone from just Instagram hacks for realtors, how to get more engagement on Instagram. That's a guaranteed click, right? So you have to try to create something for your buyers or for your sellers or your investors or the single mothers or like very specific lead magnets for these different groups where they're like, I have to see this thing. It's the single mother's guide to restaurants in San Antonio. Like that's so specific. But if I'm a single mother, I'm clicking on that thing.
Well, and one thing that you said, but I think kind of breezed over, is you have to build the audience first. And, do I want to give my email to some random thing I saw on the internet?
Some
Of course
hack.
not.
Yeah.
Right? But I give BAM my email in a heartbeat because I follow BAM. I love all their content. I'm watching your stuff. You're in my feed all the time. And then, yeah, like after I'm a follower, after I'm a fan, and then you ask me for my email, there's a lot less friction. And so I think, that is a very important thing that you mentioned is when you're starting out, you just have to put your audience before everything. Focus on building your audience. That Kansas City example you gave was great. Audience loves it. Best place to eat in Kansas City. Boom. Like what are some other like local content ideas?
I just think the green screens, I know I've mentioned it like 3 times on this podcast and I talk ad
Yep.
nauseum about them, but in any sort of news article, you should be the one that's educating your clients
Yeah.
about that. So anytime there's something that happens in your real estate market or the national real estate market that's going to hit other agents and not be as local, you should have a green screen behind you talking about it. Oh, the Orlando Magic, like even if it's about like a sports team in your area, Ken
Yeah.
Posick does an incredible job about this where he's talking about the Orlando Magic or a new mall that's popping up or a new ordinance or something with the mayor or just anything.
Yeah.
There's the mayor example again, but that's him actually interviewing the mayor
Yeah.
of
That's a little
Orlando.
different. Yeah.
Like the green screen is just so simple. And by the way, for newer content creators, it's so easy to create a green screen video because with your phone out, you're reading the article. So your script is right there. So you don't have to do the whole like I'm looking in front of the camera thing And, how's my audio? How's my video? It's organic. You could do it from your car. You could do it from your office. You pull up the green screen article and you're reading the article as the actual hook, and the title behind you actually loops people in. And then what I would do with that green screen video is I'd write a longer blog post about that green screen video, right? So if you're talking about some new development or a new coffee shop or a new restaurant or a discount somewhere, or maybe, the holidays just happened, maybe it's the best places to look at holiday lights or the best neighborhoods. You do that. You do a little blog post around that. You embed that blog post into your email. That's your email newsletter. So you're really just creating 3 or 4 pieces of content out of one green screen video. And the best part about those two is they're extremely timely, right? So anytime there's a new article, that's something that's happening. That's SEO specific. That's a YouTube title. That's a blog title. That's an email title.
So one thing on that too, because one, big fan of that. Our buddy Trey Serrano there, when Wemby was coming to the Spurs and that got announced, like he did a listing video and was like, this is the perfect house for Wemby. And you like, the shower had a high ceiling, and like he just went through all the reasons why it would be a great house for him. And obviously that one took off because that was top of mind for everybody. And then my girl Yasha in Jacksonville does the green screen videos a lot. She uses the little microphone, which I think a lot of people do, but like she uses it in every single video so people know like it's something that they recognize. But she did one on when the electric company raised their energy rates. And it blew up because guess what? People care about it. And I think the articles that you pick and the content that you pick to talk about has to be engaging to the public. But that's not always easy to figure out. Like I've seen people do them where like, oh my goodness, do this article, it's going to blow up. And they do it and it's absolute dud because I guess nobody cared. And one little thing you can think about doing is you can go to your local news Facebook page, because a lot of the local news places, they'll post like every article they have on their Facebook page as part of their process. And you'll see like every 5th or 6th one has a bunch of comments. So all of them have like a comment, 2 comments, 3 comments. And then one's got 40 comments. And you're like, oh, this is engaging. I should probably do it on this. So that's my one little thing. If you're thinking about what articles, what stuff should I be doing, go look at the stories and the stuff that's already getting engagement on the news platforms and do those.
Yeah, go on X, see what's trending in your market. Search Santa Monica real estate, search San Antonio real estate, search just your town, San Antonio, and just see what things are being talked about. X is a great platform, not necessarily to produce content, but to search for what's trending. We use it all the time when going after YouTube titles or just like trying to figure out like what's the day going to look like at BAM. Go on X, see what's happening in the real estate community, what's Steve Harney saying, what's Inman saying, what's Housing Wire saying, and then how can we wrap this into content?
So X, formerly known as Twitter.
Correct. Yeah.
Are you not going to Threads? You're not going on Threads for that?
I went hard on Threads when it first came out. I was excited about it and overwhelmed by it because I'm just posting in so many different platforms right now. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe there's another place that I'm going to have to publish seemingly 5 to 10 times per day as opposed to on Instagram that was 1 or 2 times per day. Threads seems to be kind of making a little bit of a comeback now that it's actually appearing in people's Instagram feeds and being recommended to people. I do think it's a great way to get your thoughts out and to possibly screenshot and use as Instagram and Facebook posts. And it's a great way to interact with people. If someone's posting on Threads and you comment on it and they comment back to you, that pushes your post and your profile more in the algorithm where you could get more follows on it. But is it a place that I would spend an enormous amount of time? No, it just, Twitter to me, X to me, in terms of actually consuming news about sports, politics, and real estate, that's where it happens first. Threads to me feels like a bunch of realtors just trying to throw out jokes that are or aren't working.
Well, I think Threads is a good example kind of this idea we've been talking about, where when it came out, we all jumped on it, right? Because we're marketers, and if it's going to be a thing, we got to get in early because there's so much benefit to getting in to a platform that takes off early. Like, when you were in on TikTok early, it was so much easier to build an audience than if you're doing it on TikTok now. So bunch of benefit. But after like 3 or 4, I don't know, weeks, I think, all the agents are on it. We're on it. And I look around and like the general public doesn't even know what Threads is. And there's so many agents on it because they're trying to be on the next thing. But I quickly realized that the general public was not going to interact on threads. And so that's when I pretty much raised my hands. I was like, agents, I don't think you should be spending time on threads. There's
Yeah.
no consumers there.
It's good to have a presence everywhere. It's just not somewhere I would focus an enormous amount of
Yeah.
time. Like, well, there could be a few people that discover you on threads that didn't know about you otherwise. And I'm sure that happened initially, that first like 2-week, 3-week period. I was commenting on every Hormozy piece, every Gary
Yeah. Yeah.
V post. It was like the old days of Instagram and TikTok, just like you said, where I was so excited being like, this is like a game for me, where I could see how much, rethreads and engagement this gets. And then I could actually pick up followers for the first time. Like that was my entire Instagram strategy starting the Broke Agent, was comment on as many accounts as possible, like as many photos as possible, like get the brand name out there by doing this community engagement work. And that's what was so great on threads, is like your comment could get a ton of likes and be punched up in the algorithm where your profile gets a lot of views. But you just have to pick and choose, because at some point you have to look at your own behavior, just like you said. And if I'm not opening the Threads app because I know I'm not getting anything besides Byron and myself talking, or Derek Gregory making jokes, then, and I love Derek Gregory, but I already get all this stuff on Twitter, right?
Yeah.
Like I already get the news on Twitter. I'm not seeing breaking shit on Threads that I'm seeing on Twitter. So,
but I think that's one of the biggest things I see when I have these conversations with agents who may be frustrated with social media, or they want to generate business on social media. And sometimes we turn this corner where we get mad at the platform and we're like, oh, this doesn't work. It's you. It's not me. It's the platform. And I mean, the simple thing that I see is that it's like, hey, who's your audience? Who's your audience? And is your audience connecting and consuming your content? And that was my thing with Threads, was it was easy to get wrapped up in the fact that I could comment on Gary V's thing, and there was a way higher likelihood that he would actually respond to my comment. And maybe Hormozy liked one of my comments, and like, I'm getting a couple more followers. Oh, like, this is fun. It's like, wait a second. Is this my audience? Is my audience here? And that's the question where we start, where I think a lot of people breeze right over, and they're just going after the likes. They're just going after the views. They're just going after the comments, and they're not going after who is commenting, who is liking, who is engaging with my stuff.
Yeah. You need to weigh dopamine hits with actual conversion and see if it's actually worth it. Because I mean, the dopamine hits are powerful. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I lived off of those for years with the Broke Agent, just getting likes, getting comments, getting follows like that. That's how I basically secured my happiness for 5 or 6 years, until like BAM started as a thing. And I actually, found ways to monetize it and reach agents on a deeper level. But at the beginning, it was all just building an audience and seeing how many likes and follows I could get. And that was important, because that's what built the brand, this umbrella that has pushed everything else to people. And that's what people appreciate. Like it's truly brick by brick by brick of post, of commenting, of lives, of DMing, of responses. Like, do you know how many Instagram stories I would do during the pandemic of just like questions and just trying to make people laugh in Instagram stories? That didn't convert to anything. That didn't get more follows in Instagram stories. All that did is get people deeper and more bought into my personality. We're down the road, they're going to say, oh, this guy just started nowbam.com with Byron. This guy's funny. He made me laugh 5 years ago at this Instagram story. I remember that. Or I remember this moment at a real estate conference. Or I remember this thing he said on a podcast. Like, it's all these little touch points you have with people. And, from real estate agents too. Like, there could be someone watching you that has no interest in selling, that 4 or 5 years down the road from now, they've seen your clips. They've seen your videos. They've seen your podcast clips. They've seen your tweets. They've just seen enough where you're just kind of embedded into their brain that's going to actually work and convert, and they're actually going to buy or sell a house with you. So it's fun to think about all that. I love marketing. Like I truly do. Like real estate, I don't love. Sports, I love. Marketing, I love. I love nothing more than getting lists, getting ebooks, seeing conversions. Like, it's the best thing ever. When I see the open rate jump up, I know I'm just going on a tangent here, but when I see an open rate go from 45% to 52% because of something we did in the title of that email subject or the plus subject, it's like, I'll text Jill or Brian and I'll say, today's the best day of my life, because I truly love it when stuff like this works.
I like a lot of what you're talking about. And I really like when you said, the dopamine hits from the likes and everything was all you had until you made BAM, which is like a way to actually build a business around what you've been doing. But that is why you have success with BAM, is because you made people laugh for what, 5 years, 6 years? Like, how long were you doing this before you started
Started
BAM?
in 2015 and we started BAM in 2022. So it was 7 years of just
Yeah.
making people laugh and producing content that does nothing but create laughter. I mean, a couple years before I started resurfacing blog posts, I wrote for theclose.com. I always had the occasional ebook and started building an email list and trying to add more value. But it was really kind of just a very natural progression of, all right, let's start a podcast. Oh, let's do a funny show called The Broke News Network. Let's get people more hooked in. Like, how can I use these talents in a different way? Because I know I could capture people's attention here. I know it could be funny, but I also know what the hell I'm doing in terms of capturing an audience, right? Like, I actually really, really know. I'm in the weeds of this stuff every single day. So it pisses me off when people will say, not you, but when people will say stuff like, oh, well, why the hell would I listen to The Broke Agent? That guy doesn't even sell real estate. I'm not talking about selling real estate. I have no idea how to sell real estate, right? That's why I started The Broke Agent. I know how to gather an audience. I know how to get conversions. I know how to build email lists. I know how to get following, and I know what content is good and what is funny. This is me just talking to an enemy that doesn't exist, that totally isn't you.
Still,
Not you
what
at
was
all,
it,
Tim.
Top Golf
You're
or
not the
something?
enemy.
I forget where we were when I first said that to you, and I saw the face of disgust. You were just so annoyed
It's just
with
a
me.
joke. It's just a joke between us. But Tim, whenever we do speaking gigs, Tim will introduce me as just the guy that creates memes, or just say that's all I do. But for a time period, it was kind of all I did.
But
And
damn,
also, I
you
just
were
want to go back on something else you said. When I say those dopamine hits were all I had, I meant just from a social media perspective. I have friends. I have a wife.
Yeah.
I'm happy.
No, but
you know,
what I'm getting at is you did nothing but make people laugh for 7 years. And so now when you said, hey, like, can I have your email? They're dying to give you your email. They're dying for a way to work with you at a deeper level. They want more from you because you haven't asked anything of them. And that's that kind of real like equity that you build with your audience. I think that's the thing too, is I love just trying to add value to the audience, build as much equity as I can with the audience, because I don't like making awkward asks. I don't like asking for something and it feeling weird. But when I've built so much equity with someone, it doesn't feel weird. Like, we've been friends together for years. We've supported each other for years. And like, if I'm like, hey man, do you want to come speak at this event? Like, that doesn't feel weird to me because we have equity with each other. And so many times I feel like our people naturally have a thing of asking from the audience before they've just focused on building equity with that audience, adding value to that audience, and building a community of people that really love what you do.
And there's a lot of agents that share these memes. I create them too, but my audience is real estate agents. But we'll say stuff like, "Oh, you used a friend or someone else instead of me, and I'm your good friend," right? Like that meme of just the pure disgust and like, I'll never talk to you again because you used another friend. It's probably not one I would share, right? Like, it's probably not one that's going to do your audience any favors. It's kind of funny to mention because it is that feeling, the insecurity that every real estate agent has, where it's devastating. It really is. And this has happened to me my entire career, right? Like, 2015 started The Broke Agent. I'm 25. All my friends are starting to buy condos and houses for the first time. They have no reason to work with me besides the fact that they know me. There's a ton of real estate agents in Los Angeles. So that happened to me over and over and over again. So that was such a consistent theme in a lot of my posts. But if you're an agent that's just sharing these grievances, and maybe I'm doing my content a disservice here because I'm telling people not to share
not
this.
to share it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You're conditioning your audience to be like, all right, why is this guy or this girl just complaining nonstop, right? Like, it's all about providing the value, like you said. Like, the reason we threw this webinar today is because, of course, it gets emails, but this webinar just provides more and more value. They're more bought into the BAM. They're more bought into the brand. They're probably going to come to the next BAM camp or the next BAM Mania or our next digital event because they saw, holy shit, for an hour, Eric, Tom, and Emma just did 3 free lead sources. They had 200 slides. There was nothing else there besides just value. And of course, joining BAMX for 25% off. Use code Tim Macy.
Which everybody should do. He hasn't given me a discount code, so just go give him somebody else's discount code.
Yeah.
What is it?
You could use STORY23, STOR. Actually, how about this? Use code IG. Use code IG. Special code right here for you, Tim, to join BAMX. I'm not trying to to end it or pitch BAMX. I was
No,
just using that
I'm
as
pitching BAMX
yeah,
because
yeah.
it's super cheap and it's a ton of value. So I think, no, that's definitely the way to go. I think that there's this idea of, it's funny. I was looking at two people's content, and one of my agents is trying to get traction on YouTube, and there's this other agent that's crushing on YouTube, and they're doing like very, very similar stuff, similar quality, like similar style, similar everything. But there's just this little bit about what he does that sounds more like a real estate agent, and the other guy is really more just like going along this house tour with you. And there's this idea that I think that the consumer is moving more and more towards discovery, in that they hate ads. The consumer doesn't want to interact with an ad. They want to discover the answer for themselves. They don't want somebody to tell them what to do. They don't want to get hooked on some ad. They want to discover who the best agent is for them. In all the content, in my opinion, not all the content, but more of your content should be coming from more of a place of curiosity, right? Like I see this post a lot is, hey, interest rates are going to drop and you should buy now before the market goes crazy. You're dealing multiple offer situations again, da, 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 da. There's no curiosity in that. That's certainty. That is, I'm the agent. I'm certain this is what's going to happen and you should do this because it's going to happen. And instead of being like, hey, what do you think is going to happen when interest rates drop? Do you think it's going to change the market at all? And like that curiosity of letting the consumer interact with your content to discover the answer instead of just telling them things, to me, I think is a different mindset around how we communicate with the consumer.
Yeah, that fear tactic I don't think works. Saying
No.
something like that, or then asking for business, saying like, DM me for more information, or if you're looking to buy or sell real estate, let me know. Like that ask. And I think Byron has said this before, but it's just one of the worst things you could possibly say is just like, for all your real estate needs, reach out to me. It's like, we know that. That's not content that anyone wants to see. That content does nothing for nobody, nothing for anybody. Doesn't do anything for anyone.
I talk about this all the time, and Rafe, I'm going to be super transparent. So hopefully you don't get mad at me for this one. I'll be transparent on our business and my logic behind how this stuff works. So that most of my role is in growing the brokerage, and that's people raising their hand and saying, hey, I'd like to move from XYZ brokerage and I want to come join Real. So this podcast does that by hopefully getting me in front of more agents learning helpful stuff from the podcast and wanting to connect more with me and probably the guests that I have on. The goal is that hopefully they go follow me on Instagram, right? Because you can't DM someone on a podcast. You can DM someone on Instagram. So the goal is have people connect with me, get value from the podcast, connect with me on a different platform other than this one. The next thing is that they connect with me and go to one of our Zoom call trainings. Because if I can get them on one of our trainings, I can get them to feel what the culture's like. I can get them to get value from one of the actual brokerage trainings. Then they're further down the funnel to convert to eventually join the brokerage. But you've seen the posts that I do. Like I do posts kind of talking about Real. I do posts where I talk about what's going on and everything else. And I talk about how grateful I am and grateful to work with certain people. But I never put DM me for information about Real. Because when I do that, I've sucked all of the curiosity out of the post, because people are reading that post and they're like, oh, hey, this is cool that he's so happy at this place. This is cool that he likes the people he works with. Oh, that's interesting. But the minute I put DM me for info, it's like, okay, this is an ad. It went from being a post that people connect with to being an ad. And so you don't have to put, let me know if you know anybody that's interested in buying or selling. You just need to make posts that people connect with. And if they do, they should reach out to you. Sorry. Yeah. It's a long-winded
No,
thing.
you're totally right. And goes back to, I think it is the Trey Serrano tactic, where if you're talking about like working your real estate business in and saying, by the way, my listing is down the street. Here's what I love about this neighborhood, is such a better sell than if you're looking to buy or sell real estate. Contact me. It's like you're sharing information. You're providing proof of business that you have a listing in the area or you sold a house down the road. Like you just throw that in That's just like a cool little tidbit. It's like, oh, by the way, down the road, I sold a house, multiple offers, market's crazy, boom, into your actual pitch. So
Oh,
you're
and
totally right.
it's the Phil Jones thing. So if you do any of the Phil Jones training, which I highly recommend it, it's been great. I think I'm good at talking to people. And then I get around Phil Jones and I'm like, oh, I suck at talking to people.
Yeah,
This guy's good at talking to people.
He's incredible.
So one of the big overarching things, though, that was a paradigm shift for me is you don't come to the conversation with the answer. The conversation is about finding the answer together. So like if I want Eric, or if Eric wants me to sign up for BAMX, he can't just hop on the conversation and be like, hey, dude, you should sign up on BAMX. He needs to design a conversation where I'm like, you know what? I think I should sign up for BAMX. And it's the same thing with your content. You don't want your content to come to the viewer with the answer, which is, hey, you should use me to buy or sell a house. You should have your content take people on a journey that makes them go, hey, you know what? I should reach out to Trey to buy it because like I love his stuff. He's doing all this stuff because people want to discover it themselves. They don't want to be told that they should call you to do business. They want to say, hey, you know what? I should call so-and-so to do business. I should call Eric to buy a house. Not, oh, you know what? Eric mails me this stuff and we've been friends. God, it's going to be awkward if I don't use him. Like nobody should feel obligated to use you. They should feel like, oh, you know what? Eric's the fucking man. And I follow all his stuff and God, I should see if he's got time to work with me.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
the
actually
goal.
that's a great tweet right there. Is you shouldn't be the agent where people feel uncomfortable not to work with you, or people feel are only working with
Obligated.
you because they feel awkward if they wouldn't.
Yeah.
That's a good tweet right there. I don't know if it's funny necessarily, but it rings true.
It's
So that's
true,
something I'll
though.
workshop. That's something I'll workshop
Yeah.
on X, and then I'll see how the engagement is, and then maybe I'll shift up the language before I post it to Instagram right there. So there's a
I like
little
it.
strategy as well. But I also think that agents don't always have to get too cute with everything, right? Like we're talking about all these organic ways to produce videos and how to like subtly bring up the fact that you're a real estate agent and to never sell, but to just talk about information and provide value. If you have a listing, you should still do like a listing video. I see a lot of agents that have just completely gone away from even posting listing videos, and it's all either agent to agent content or how can I entertain or how can I
Yeah.
provide value. But at the same time, you still want to see like, is this guy even doing business? Is this girl even
Yeah.
doing business? Do they have listings, or are they just like putting on a show for us this entire
Yeah.
time? Right? Like I look at Paige Steckling. She has the best listing videos I've ever seen. And they're so entertaining. They have the best hooks. Like one, she actually hits a golf ball because it's near a golf course. She hits a golf ball and then it like flips into their video. The music is in perfect synchronization with the photos popping up. And she has such a good call to action at the end. Just DM me for more details. Sometimes a simple listing video like that is needed for a real estate agent's content because it's proof of concept. You're providing the fact that you have a listing and your job is to actually sell listings, right? So if you have this enormous audience and you're just looking for super creative ways to get more engagement and keep getting trust from your audience, occasionally isn't your seller ever going to be like, yo, dude, are you going to post this listing?
Post my listing.
Yeah. You came in here with the fact that you have 30,000 followers and you have all these agents following you, but when are you actually going to post a listing? Like I like when I see other listing videos. Like I like when I see Matt Leonetti talk about his actual real estate in his Instagram stories, because that's what this is all for, right?
Yeah.
Not for me. Thank God. But this is what a lot of this is for. And I think agents kind of lose, where they're trying to go with their content, because all of it is to sell real estate. And for me, that's not the option.
So one of the
Fortunately.
things Hormozy said, which I like, is, if you're a travel agent, you don't sell going through TSA and getting your boarding pass, right? You sell the beach in Hawaii. And for agents, we want to talk about new home buyer programs and like this nuanced stuff that nobody cares about.
Yeah.
It's like people want the house. They want to see the house. And I think the challenge with agents not doing listing videos, and maybe they're like, oh, the listing videos don't work. It's usually because they're doing boring listing videos. Like a traditional listing video sucks, some like elevator music and going through the house. You need to ramp up, like you said, Paige whacking a golf ball to get the hook, to get people's attention, and then showing the house near the golf course. Every house has something about it that you can sell. And so I agree, you need to show up and do listing videos. I think people are not doing as well with them because they're just making boring, bland listing videos.
Yeah, you can't post your 4-minute listing video horizontally recorded to Instagram that you're going to upload to your property website. That's
Yeah,
not going to work. You have
it's
to
not
make
going to work.
you have to make content that is, conducive to the actual platform that you're posting
Yeah.
on. I'm sure Paige has 3 or 4-minute long listing videos of these mansions that she's selling, but she also has an Instagram short or a YouTube short and an Instagram post that is, a quicker version of that, where
Mhm.
she says something like, "This house has the craziest kitchen I've ever seen." That's a great hook. I want to see that. Then you have the kitchen 20 seconds, 30 seconds into the actual video. So you're already seeing the rest of the house, right? Like it's all about using these words to keep people hooked for the entire video.
Dude, we've been on an hour, man.
Damn.
That
We
went
got
by
into it a
quick.
little bit. That was good. Yeah. I think we
Yeah.
got some tactics. You were trying to pull tactics out of me, acting like I wasn't giving you tactics, even though I was giving you tactics. Being like,
Listen,
yeah,
I'm
well, I really
always
want to get into the nitty gritty. I was getting into the nitty gritty.
driving, all right, to get the most out of our guests as possible. And that's all. That's all. I love you. I think you brought a bunch of heat today, and I'm hoping our people got some good stuff for it. So
Where
look,
do you publish this thing? I haven't even seen this podcast anymore. You know what you're not doing a good job of? Promoting this podcast. I don't even
that's
know. I
true.
didn't even know
Well,
you had one, to be honest.
I needed to have you on it.
There we go.
Now I have something
Proof
to
of concept. It's
promote.
like getting Sirhan on. That's what we did for Overask. You have Sirhan on,
Yeah.
then you have proof like, hey, I got this guy on. Everybody else could come on now. So
All right,
I
maybe
appreciate
we'll go
that.
get Ryan. But look,
Yeah,
for people who've never heard of the Broke Agent or BAM or anything else, like where is your best place you want to send people to connect with you?
Oh man, there's so many places. The Broke Agent Instagram is the humor account. That's where you're
Yeah.
going to get my personality. That's where you get all the laughs. Now bam.com is our real estate news and marketing site. 4 or 5 blog posts every single day. We have our YouTube channel, Now Bam, which has the hot sheet every single morning where Byron Lazine goes live with the only live real estate show on a daily basis. He just hit his 1-year anniversary. Do you know how big of a lift this is for him to do this 30, 40 minutes every single day to prep for the show? Like he doesn't just get on and just start yapping out of his ass. Like he has these entire hot sheet show notes, which are available in BAMX, of course, for members. But he has all of these hot sheet show notes where people can now green screen them and use them for actual content. Like he preps so much for this. We have all of our podcasts.
He's a monster for consistency.
Oh my God. Like he produces more content than anybody, which is crazy. Like he does the Real Word podcast. He does his Byron Lazine interviews. He does the hot sheet shows. He does YouTube shorts and all these little clips and everything while running the #1 team in Connecticut while also running BAM. So he's my partner in BAM, and huge shout out to Byron, who we didn't mention once, but he's
We don't
like
love
you said.
him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So connect with you on Instagram. That sounds good. And look, last thought, like what do you want to leave people with going into 2024?
Oh, I hate this question. I feel like I have to say something
Profound.
brilliant.
We're waiting for brilliance.
I know. I think it really is the brick by brick mentality, just knowing that you're not going to have just one viral post, or you're not just going to have not everything's going to work. You're going to start a YouTube show, or you're going to start an Instagram series like Taya 2 Cents that I mentioned earlier, or you're going to start, your newsletter and it's going to have a shit open rate, or you're going to have no subscribers. It all takes an enormous amount of time. This has been 9 years now of me doing the Broke Agent to get to a place where I could even talk with some sort of confidence about what I'm doing, to see that, oh my God, it's actually working. People are going on our site. People are subscribing to stuff. People are joining BAMX. People are watching our YouTube videos. It takes time. So if you're a newer agent watching this and you want to get into content creation, just know that it's going to be a battle. It's going to be an emotional. Are you taking a video right now?
A little bit.
It's going to be an
Come on, don't
emotional
mess up your
journey. The ups and downs. It's going to be a roller coaster of dopamine hits and people telling you your content sucks and you feeling embarrassed and you not wanting to do certain things, but it'll work out. I don't know. There you go.
It'll work out. I love
It'll
that.
work
I
out.
love that as a final thought, because that is the most under talked about thing, is that it is brick by brick. So Eric,
Exactly.
I appreciate you, man. Appreciate what you do for the industry. Appreciate your friendship, and I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Thanks, everybody.